My name's Claudia Thomas, and I wanted to give you an idea of what I'm involved in, which will help you understand a little bit more of my presentation, which is based a lot on some personal experiences I've had. I'm on 2 volunteer fire departments. One of the departments, we handle a wide variety of medical emergencies. We have jaws of life. So we witness a lot of pretty traumatic type of situations. The other department I'm on has not gotten into a medical portion or segment within our department. We are presently just now starting to get involved in that. I'm a first responder in first aid. We have only one other person on that department that is medically trained at all. We have a few people with CPR certification, but it's pretty slim right now. I didn't want to go into any real of the technical specifics of compressions to breaths and 15 to 2 or 5 to 1. That's not my purpose for my presentation. What I wanted to talk about was a little bit of some personal experiences that I have been involved in or have had people, fellow firefighters tell me about. One of the stories I'm going to tell you about, a friend of mine, his name is Ron, who's on the experienced department, told me about his first time out performing CPR. They received an emergency call. He went out on the call. He was the first one to respond. A couple of other guys showed up behind him. He had a client there, patient there that was unconscious, no breath, no pulse. He began CPR. One of the guys standing behind him said, "You're not doing that right." Not very encouraging, but of course Ron, being the committed firefighter that he is, committed to doing the CPR. Ambulance showed up, took the guy to the hospital. Well, he was toast. Actually, he was toast before Ron ever even started working on him because he had an aneurysm and he was gone. Ron relayed that story to me in order to talk a little bit about the guilt feeling that comes along when you're out in an emergency situation and you have experienced a loss. We seem to enjoy talking in terms of saves. Did you get a save? Well, probably 90% of the time, especially on a situation like this, you're not going to experience a save. You will experience a loss. When Ron returned to work later that day, he had injured himself, injured his leg quite severely, as a matter of fact. Somehow, in the way that he was thinking, he somehow deserved that pain because he wasn't able to perform a save on this individual he worked on earlier in the day. He put up with that pain for quite a while during the workday, and eventually finally attended to it when it swelled up to the size of an elephant's foot. Less than 2 weeks ago, I had my first experience doing CPR on a patient. I showed up on the scene. One of the other firefighters who hasn't been certified in CPR in probably 8-10 years had begun CPR. Another layperson was working on the patient. I walked in on the scene. I took over CPR. I'm a first responder. That was my duty to act on this person. Well, to cut a long story short, we didn't get a save. She passed away. She was pretty much toast when we were there. She was 40 years old, had been on dialysis, had just been released from the hospital 2 hours before. Knowing all of this, my main concern was, did I do it right? Did I do it right? So I called the EMT who was on the ambulance crew and asked him, how did we do? Did we do it, were we all right? That's my main concern, because I'm not so concerned personally that she passed away, because when it's time to go, sometimes it's just your time to go. He said, you did great. Sometimes it's that old JT that's going to help you, and you're going to get better and better and better. You did great. Everybody on the scene did great. She had good color. He went into some of the technical type things to help reiterate the fact we did a good job, which made me feel really good. I called the other members on the department who had been at the call, and I let them know. We did great. We did a good job. Chief called me up. He goes, you did a great job, blah, blah, blah. This went around, that networking of information, that being able to talk to somebody else, have them talk to me, really worked in helping me to deal with this situation. It's a very new situation for me, being the first time. It's only happened 2 weeks ago. The only thing you can do is do your best and know that you've done your best. Nobody else can ever expect any more from you than that. Don't feel guilty. If you do, network, talk to each other, call the other people on the scene, call the EMT, let people call you. There was a myriad of phone calls for that next hour, and it felt good because it worked it out immediately for me, for the other people that were involved. Remember, you're going to have more losses than you will save. You're going to have more losses than you're going to have saved. Don't feel bad about it. Just go on and do the best you can, and remember to talk to other people about it. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Claudia Thomas, and I'm here to talk today about point of origin. Let's get my machine going here. Okay, what our plan for today will be is to discuss the needs for and some of the methods for locating the approximate area of point of origin. The reason that we need to determine our fire origin is so that we can go in and determine what the cause of the fire was. This will help us pinpoint the cause, be able to pursue prosecution in a criminal case if it was arson set. We need to be very cognizant, very understanding of the importance of preserving that area and the evidence that goes along with it. We would do this through our observations, our record keeping, and reporting that we would do to our supervisor or chief. Shut that off for a bit. Can anybody think of some of the items that we might look for, we might observe as far as determining an origin or keeping some information about that point of origin if we were going to the fire? Some of the things you might see on your way to the fire that might click, something isn't quite right there, or something might be suspicious. Stephanie?
I think vehicles you pass on the way into an origin, or to a fire.
Perfect. Good vehicles. Anything else? Anyone else?
I was thinking once you reach the fire, the evidence. Once you reach the fire.
Okay, recent fire information. We're looking more for things that we would observe, physically observe on our way to the fire. So what about along the line of vehicles, some of the things that you might notice about vehicles, if they're speeding out of the area, look a little suspicious? It would to me. What if they were leaving and it's dark outside, but they don't have their lights on? That might be a good indicator that you have a problem out there. Maybe they're parked in some pretty unlikely spots. They might be off the road and off into the side. You may find one burned up at your point of origin once you get in on your initial attack. Another good indicator, because of the fact that so many fires are started by children. So you might notice that children in the area would be a good indicator or a good point to keep track of. Another thing might be if you went in, you're driving up on the scene, you may see some gates down. You might see some damage to some fences. And the other item that's very common that you might come across would be power lines down. Very good cause for a fire. And it's something very easy to overlook, and yet it's something that you could be harmed by, one of your friends could be harmed by, and it could have been the cause of that fire. Okay, and I'll just, to review that point, some of the items to observe while you're traveling to the fire would be vehicles speeding away from the fire area, vehicles without the lights on at night, parked in unlikely spots, children leaving the area, gates or fences down or damaged, power lines down or damaged. Okay, now we've gotten to the scene. We're there now. What kinds of other things? You're on the scene. What other kinds of things there do you think you might notice or pick out at that scene that would make you think that, this is something I should, think about here?
Pile of beer cans.
That's a good one. Even though they might just be from your crew boss the day before.
Vehicle tracks and footprints.
Wonderful. Vehicle tracks. Footprints.
I came across one time, and there was it was an elk hide and, like a gut pile and stuff like that.
There was some evidence there that there was
Yeah.
maybe poaching going on. These are all great answers. Another thing you might keep an eye out for, and we run into this a lot in structural type fire situations, are suspicious people. They come over, oh, I'll help you with that hose. I'll help you put the fire out. They want to be the hero. They're there. They may be a little overly helpful. May just be part of their personality. They're really there just to help you out. Take note of it. You never know. That might be the person who started it. You want to get a general idea of where the point of origin was so that you can help preserve and protect that area. So upon your arrival at the scene, you want to check for suspicious people, sometimes trying to help. Conversations of onlookers, who, what, why, where. Power lines down. There could be fire cause. We talked about that earlier. As you're going to the scene, you also want to, still be aware of that while you're on the scene. The general area of origin, what's on fire? What's the color of the smoke? There's black smoke usually will indicate some sort of rubber base. Different colors of smoke may be a real good indicator to you that there's been some form of display there. And then you want to look for signs of campfires, beer cans, debris burning. Okay, once you're on the scene and during the point of your initial attack, there's some ignition devices that you would probably want to keep your eyes out for. Something that may have started the fire. Can anybody come up with anything there?
Fireworks?
Fireworks, great. Any others? Cigarettes?
Burned toilet paper?
I'm not even going to write that one out. Just remember it. Burn toilet paper.
Sorry.
I believe it. Campfires. Okay, you might see some road flares, maybe some fusees, something as simple as matches or a lighter, maybe some children's items lying around.
Glass.
Glass is a real good one, and usually overlooked, unfortunately, and it's a real good conductor of heat. So just to review, matchbooks, candles, road flares, fusees, cigarettes. Just so on top of this stuff here, you're making it very easy for me. Okay. Some of the things when we talk about vehicles going to the fire or while you're on the fire and you notice these vehicles, one thing that's very important is to make sure that you record this information. Don't leave it up to your memory to recall this stuff 2 hours later or 5 hours later or 3 days later when you need that information. Some of the items that you might want to keep track of, say on vehicles, would be things like their license plate numbers, their type, color, age, year, and if you're like me, I can't pick out a lot of that kind of stuff when I'm looking at certain vehicles. Pick out and do the best you can and write it down. Have a little pad in your vehicle. Make sure that you write this information down. License plate numbers are very important. If you have an opportunity to get a plate number, that's one of the best IDs that you can get on a vehicle. Put down things like the condition of the car. Is it dented up? Is the right front fender all dinged up? Back quarter panel missing? Write down that stuff. Is one a different color than the rest of the car? These are great ID marks for the police if they needed to track that vehicle. Another thing would be to record things about the people in the vehicle or people around or leaving the scene. Make sure that you put down a basic general description of those people. Things such as their age, sex, height, and no, we don't mean preference, gender. Height, weight, clothing, hair, took me a minute, hair color, and unusual characteristics. Do they have any scars? Did you see any tattoos? Anything there that you might have picked up on? And then be sure, with all of this information, anything you put down into your record keeping, make sure you put down the time that you saw this going on. You may be called upon later on in the court of law to review and testify about this information. So keep real good record keeping, very, very important. And then, as I mentioned earlier, be sure to always report this information to your supervisor, to your crew boss. In my case, on a city fire department, I would go to my chief and make sure that I turned over all of this information. If there seemed to be some real suspicious activity there, some arson, some very blatant and obvious stuff, I would make sure that I called into a state fire marshal or whatever your procedures are. Real quickly, I'm just going to run over some of the do's and don'ts of protecting the scene. Some of the do's would be, make sure you keep other people out of the area. Nothing's worse than going in to do an investigation on a scene and there's 20 million foot tracks running around. And it wasn't the arson people, it was the firefighters. Very frustrating. And it'll destroy a scene quicker than anything, and it happens quite commonly. Make sure you protect the area. You can either set up some hand tools, you can use some flagging tape, roll of toilet paper, preferably not burned up. Run these things around the area, keep people out of it. Anything that it would take for you to protect that area of origin so that when the investigators come in, that they can do their job. And then finally, the don'ts. We sort of mentioned that already. Don't walk through the area. Don't apply water to that area. It's probably burned out already, so you're not going to need to put water on it. If you do need to cool down, if it's a hot spot and you need to cool it down, use a nice box tube, something real light, and don't go deep into the dirt because you're going to destroy some of the evidence. You know, spray it over, nice light stream, just enough to douse it down, but not enough to tear up the ground or tear up some of the evidence that might be around it. And then don't drive your vehicles, or don't let anybody else drive your vehicles. Nothing's worse than seeing it next to all the dozens of footprints running around, big old tractor tracks riding through, riding right over the matches that started the fire in the first place. So, in review, remember to make your observations while you're going to the scene, while you're at the scene. Make sure you record this information, write it down, and then make sure that you follow up and report this information to your supervisors. Very important to protect your point of origin. And thank you.